Our closed session is ended. Taken.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I can report out on the closed session. Council met on closed session on the matter listed on the agenda, received information, and provided direction. There was no reportable action taken in the closed session this evening.
Thank you. So that will conclude our special meeting. Now we go to our regular meeting. Okay. Question, do we have to do the pledge and all that again?
Nope.
Thank you.
We should call roll.
Here we should call, okay. Have a roll call, please.
Mayor Flores,
Here.
Vice Mayor Edge, Councilmember DeVries,
Here.
Councilmember Freeman,
Here.
Councilmember Jordan. Here. A quorum is present.
I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for former city clerk and council member of Anchorage Village. She was elected to city council in 2009, appointed to city clerk position in 1989, and served for 4 years. So we just, moment of silence. to pass it on. Thank you. Public comment.
Jolene Cosio.
Good evening, Council. Jolene Cosio, 181 Lang Street. First, I just want to mention that I would really appreciate it if the City Council would revisit Planning Commission Resolution 2016-17 dealing with start times for construction in residential areas. The PC recommended 8 a.m. start times in residential areas, and there is currently no code for permit start times. Each permit has its own start time, and that is assigned by whoever's working as a city planner at that time. And it really should be in our codes to have a consistent start time. They recommend 8 a.m. I totally agree with 8 a.m. I'm totally unhappy with the 7 a.m. time that the bulldozers got up on La Suan Drive, because it wakes us up most mornings, although the last few mornings, for some reason, they're starting about 10 o'clock, but that's neither here nor there. There really should be something in our codes, and that is up to the council to set. Apparently, the resolution that the Planning Commission passed is not binding. It's up to whoever's issuing the permits to decide that. And also, stop signs are all to be approved by City Council per Code 7-1-305, and there's some other mentions of it elsewhere. Currently, we have at least 4 stop signs, 3 on San Juan Hollister Road and 1 on McKellamie, that I do not believe were ever presented to Council so that you could approve them or not with a formal resolution. And I have an example of a formal resolution that was passed for a stop sign, if anybody needs to see it. This City Council needs both a well-trained city planner and a public works director in order to run at optimum efficiency. Both positions were approved in former budgets. I do not know if these positions are currently in the budget, but unless your new city manager is fully educated in both these positions, we need to create or fill these very important positions. And, you know, this is not a knock on Todd. He's an assistant planner or an associate planner. He doesn't have the training to be the planner, and we really need one. For instance, on Monterey near San Antonio Street, oh, wait a minute, I skipped back to stop signs. I haven't reread this. No, this is different. This is on Public Works. On Monterey near San Antonio Street, there were 3, possibly 4, some people say 4, no parking signs were installed several years ago to help with line of sight for cars coming off San Antonio Street to turn onto McKellamie. Currently, there are 2 signs standing, even though city workers recently mowed right around a sign laying on the ground. There are so many examples of oversights like this, including a sprinkler aimed directly at a high-voltage electrical box at 4th and McKellamie. I would like to see city workers asked to get out of their vehicles and walk the streets and to record work that needs to be done, and then do it. While I hope the city will give specific responsibilities to each city worker, as one responsible for streets, one responsible for parks, etc., we are too small a city to not expect all workers to pitch in and get all the necessary maintenance done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't have any more cards.
Sorry, I forgot to deliver mine.
Wyatt Grant.
Hi, thank you for your time tonight. I'll just take a couple minutes. I'm a new resident. My name's Wyatt Grant, 1200 Vista Way. I just wanted to introduce myself tonight. I actually spoke to Mary Vasquez on the phone. She invited me down tonight just to make a quick introduction. I'm a special education teacher in Morgan Hill. I'm an arts program director that's worked for many years in the Bay Area, running arts programs for thousands of youth. I'm specifically passionate about supporting youth with disabilities, individuals with disabilities. I have my own family members with disabilities. I'm excited to see what Juan Bautista is currently doing, what they have done. I'm excited to be a part of the community and looking forward to being a part of strategic committees in the future. I just want to thank you for people here in the community that have been so welcoming for a new resident. This has been a great place to live with my family thus far. We just moved here a few months ago. But we're very happy to call this place home, and I'm looking forward to building more community in the future. So thank you very much for your guys' time, and I look forward to seeing you each individually in the future.
You're on my to-do list.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Good. Okay.
You've already communicated us.
Now you know my ugly face, so thanks, guys.
Thank you, Wyatt.
Thank you very much.
Got some good connections for you.
Okay, thanks very much. Yeah. Nice to see you.
Jackie Morris Lopez.
Good evening, City Council. I'm just here to also reiterate what Mrs. Cosio had said about the stop signs. I was very gratefully chosen to be on the community members panel for the recent interviewing and hiring of the new city manager. And I have to report that I was very honored, and we had a really great group of 5 candidates, and it was really difficult to, for you guys to be up there to choose the one, but I thought they were all win-wins. But anyway, I was coached by our sitting acting city manager not to bring anything up like the city stop signs that are in place. So I find this is the forum for it, and I agree with Mrs. Cosio that those were put up without your acknowledgement and approval and the proper processes. So I'd like that to be done. I avoid that street as a local resident here just because it's a hassle. I don't feel like they're really doing what they were intended to do. And number one, they were put up there in error and illegally. Number two, I feel like we're turning a new leaf. It's a new start. We have a new city manager. We've had a wonderful acting city manager that has really guided the city to where we are today. I welcome the new city manager, the new city council members. And with that being said, is there any way that you can all get together and maybe propose looking at the Main Street? Because a lot of the candidates, out of the 5 of them, I'd have to say that probably all of them had made statements in their speeches and their interviews that they felt like 3rd Street was the economic engine. Just as over here across the street is the historic engine. We have the mission. Without that being said, we know what that's all about. But I feel like our little downtown street needs some refurbishing, and I feel that needs to fall back on the property owners, not the business lessees. I feel that we have codes in place, and if someone could please help guide these business and building owners. I feel like Anaka has done a wonderful job as a lessee, as a renter, to really go along with sprucing up our economic engine. There's some other businesses that have done, but their hands are tied. This lies on the building owners, not on them. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other cards.
No other comments? All right. We'll move on to consent items. All matters listed under the consent agenda may be enacted by one motion authorizing actions indicated for those items so designated. There'll be no separate discussion on these items unless requested by a member of the City Council, staff member, or a citizen. A, approve affidavit of posting agenda. B, approve affidavit of posting and mailing public hearing notice for Valle Vista. Approve affidavit of posting public hearing notice for Recology. Approve resolution for street closures for Rotary Antique and Collectibles Fair, Sesquicentennial Parade, and a community art project. Approve a resolution authorizing the Ansar High School football and cheer to sell fireworks during July 4th, 2019 holiday. And waive reading of ordinances and resolutions tonight's agenda beyond the title. That is our consent items. Do we have a motion to accept them?
That we accept the items.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Leslie? Do we have any further discussion? If we're not, we'll call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Presentation, informal items and report. San County Saddle Horse Parade and Rodeo, June 20 to 21st. We have a representative from the Saddle Horse Show. There's two.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Mansmith. I was just recently crowned this year's Miss San Benito Rodeo. And I just want to talk to you guys really quickly about the parade. It's on June 22nd at 11 a.m. in downtown Hollister. It's going to be tons of fun. Kelsey and I are going to be there on horseback along with some past queens. There's going to be tons of floats. I know that the high school cheer team is going to be there along with dance teams, and it's a really great family event, so I just wanted to invite everybody out there. And now I'm going to welcome Miss Kelsey French.
So hi everybody, I'm your 2018 Miss San Benito Rodeo Queen. This past Saturday actually I passed my title down to Miss Bonnie Mansmith, so it's been a little new for me to be a has-been queen. I'm out, I'm old, but I will still be around till our rodeo. And I'm going to talk to you about our rodeo. So the rodeo is June 28th through the 30th. That's a Friday through Sunday event. Friday night starts at 7 o'clock. Saturday and Sunday will start at 1:30. We have a big family barbecue that attends on Saturday night at 5. Tickets are $25 a person. And we also have our membership barbecue that is this Saturday at 1:30. Tickets are available that you could buy there or online as well. And I would love to see everybody come out and support all of our rodeo contestants. Our rodeo is filled with family generations, and I'm so honored to say that I was a part of it this past year. And I had a great and amazing year representing our rodeo. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, monthly financial statements.
That was adorable.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you request that our city accountant provide you with monthly summaries of the city's financial condition. Those are included in the packet. If you have any questions, be happy to address them.
Any questions?
I do not.
Do you have a report, city manager report?
Mayor, members of the council, I've given you a written report, but I thought you might be interested and the community would be interested to know that I attended a briefing at the emergency operations staff level about PG&E's their program to turn off electric service when a series of circumstances come together, when there's a red flag warning, when there's high winds, when there is a lot of vegetation. And PG&E is required now by the California Public Utilities Commission to notify customers of the potential and then actually turn off your electric power with advance notice in order to avoid rangeland and wildlife fires. One might ask, well, we don't have those conditions here in the valley. Well, it turns out that there are high voltage transmission lines that cross the coastal range, and those conditions could exist impacting the transmission lines, which would then impact us and a whole series of customers up and down this valley and to the north and south of us. So each customer of PG&E has received in the mail, and if they're like me, they probably didn't pay a lot of attention to it, the warning that these notices are potentially going to come your way and the opportunity to sign up for push alerts through your smartphone so that you're kept informed. tips on how to be prepared for this event. We will put this information on the city's website as well, so we will keep our community informed. It would be wrong to say it could never happen, but it's relatively low risk in our area. But it has already been exercised in Napa, Sonoma, and Yolo County. So you recall about 2 weeks ago, they actually did turn the power off for about 24 hours because those conditions that I mentioned all came together at the same time.
So how do they deal with people that need power to stay alive?
Well, if you are registered with PG&E, they know that, people who are on special medical equipment. And if you are in need of that kind of service and have not registered with PG&E, then you should do so immediately.
Can I add one more thing to answer the mayor's question? There is also a relatively new technology called microgrids, where small communities or small businesses or large packing plants and large businesses will have their own source of generation and can disconnect from the, that's why it's called a microgrid, can disconnect from the main grid and carry on. There is financial aid or help and engineering expertise available for Monterey Bay Community Power.
Thanks, John.
That concludes my report.
All right. Building and planning report? Todd?
Let's see. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Todd Kennedy, your city planner. Just here to kind of give a quick overview. The report you have in your packets tonight is the same one that was presented to Planning Commission back on January 4th, or excuse me, June 4th. So, sorry about that. And so I just actually did some updates today. I do apologize for the delay in responses, and really the one thing I just like to point out that has changed is the Loaiza subdivision, the minor subdivision over there across the street from Rancho Vista, has been approved by Planning Commission back on January 4th. The
June 4th.
June. Why am I saying January?
Going backward.
It was approved back on June 4th, and the notice of exemption was already filed, and right now the project engineer and the city engineer are working together to get it all completed. And that's a key ingredient for the roundabout right-of-way dedication. Other than that, I have nothing else to report, and but I can answer any questions you may have tonight.
Any questions? Okay, thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Now, report from City Council appointees to regional organizations and committees.
You always start with me.
Well, you're on the left.
Oh, okay. I'll try and make this short. It's actually a lot's happening. On Monterey Bay Community Power, several new cities and a new county is asking to join the power CCA. The following cities in SLO have already joined or are undergoing their second reading at the council level, and that would be Pismo Beach, Grover Beach, and Paso Robles, which are joining, who the two have already joined, which is Morro Bay and San Luis Obispo. Okay, San Luis Obispo County, which is separate from San Luis Obispo City, is also considering it, but they're not quite there yet. However, both the city and county of Santa Barbara have also asked to join the organization. We are proceeding with the city of Santa Barbara. The county of Santa Barbara has a problem in that they have two service providers. The northern half is done by PG&E and the southern half is done by SoCal Edison. So the PUC is going to have something to say about that, and so that's kind of up in the air for Santa Barbara County. And I'm just reminding people that these cities have asked to join Monterey Bay Community Power. We didn't really go out and recruit them. They've asked to join because the PUC has made it much harder to form a CCA. 5 years ago, there was only like 3 or 4 in the state. Right now, there's 19. And I think the PUC doesn't want any more than 20. So anyway, that's kind of where it's at. Full disclosure, I think every time you have a new organization, a new business, and it is a business, there's always problems. I've worked in Fortune 500 companies, you know, and we always had trouble with billing. And so now, I hate to say it, but Monterey Bay Community Power is having that problem. Approximately 3,000 customers out of 400,000, so it's less than 1%, were not billed. And so that's actually, you know, you don't have to pay part of your bill. That you could view that as a good thing if you want to. But we would like to, the organization would like to recover that money. There is a PUC rule that you cannot go back and collect if it's past 3 months due. The problem happened in January and February. They did not find out about it till April or May. It's now June, so it's going to be tough. And then there's also a state constitutional law that says the public agency cannot make a donation of public funds or services free of charge, and so we might have done that to those people who were not billed properly. The billing is done by a third-party vendor. I suggested that we kick that vendor to the curb. I was informed there's only one other vendor that can do it, and this vendor does SMUD and several other CCAs, so it's not like they're the it's a very specialized field. PG&E has to approve the vendors. You know, it's very. Someone else suggested that we bring it in-house. We hire some computer specialists and bring it in-house. And they said, well, the software is proprietary and very complex, so I guess that's not going to happen. So anyway, they think the problem is now solved. So on to AMBAG, I went to AMBAG. AMBAG discussed housing and grants production for the affordable housing crisis. So everyone in this room should know that San Juan Bautista is going to get a grant of $65,000 to do the new RENA allocation that's going to come whenever it comes. It's going to come from COG. The actual RENA numbers are going to come from COG, but the grant's going to be provided by AMBAG through the state. It's complicated. It's even more complicated than I want to think about. So we're going to get $65,000. I was told that if we farm it out to EMC like we're doing right now, the cost would probably be $75,000 to $85,000. So we'll probably have to have a little bit of skin in the game, but it's something we have to do. The Intergovernmental Relations Committee, we took a field trip to the library at California State Monterey Bay, and we met the dean of the business department there, and he stated that he would like to provide classes if we had a decent library. Of course, the purpose of this was to get steam to build a county library. So that dean is a very ambitious and enthusiastic gentleman, and I'm sure the county could work it out if needed. And that concludes my reports.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
I went to the Water Resources Association of San Benito County meeting. Tonight is a sustainable groundwater management workshop that I couldn't attend. One of the things that we discussed was the programs that the Water Management District has for San Benito County, including San Juan Bautista, which we use very little of. One of them is plumbing retrofits, landscape audits, another is toilet replacements, and the biggie water softener replacement program. So if anybody wants to have their water softeners replaced, talk to the San Benito County Water District. The only thing that we have taken part of in the month of May was plumbing retrofits, and according to Sean Novak, that was not really retrofits, that was new development. But we have lots of resources that we are not taking advantage of and should be as citizens of the city.
Anyone else?
I went to the Monterey San Benito County Leadership Council, and we have approved over $12 million for homeless. And San Benito County will get $1,871,098. And that all goes to outreach for the street, for youth, and for transitional housing for homeless people.
How about COG or LAFCO?
Want me to bring the whole thing?
Yeah, we need to know.
Let's see. Actually, I have a COG meeting this Thursday to bring it up. I don't have a report written out. I didn't bring any information with me. As a matter of fact, I left half of my stuff over there at the house. Sorry.
Okay.
But next meeting, you will get a total update of what's happening.
Okay.
Basically, what I've been working on is they showed a plan of redistricting, or actually reassigning roads. Help me here, Ed, on that meeting, on the...
I need more clues, Mayor.
Well, that had the roads that are, the truck routes, the proposed truck routes and all that. We're also going to be getting a map from LAFCO on the agricultural land and what its value is, whether it's high agriculture or low, whatever, that allow us to use that space for affordable housing.
Okay.
So that's basically what we're looking at this last week, and I've got a COG meeting on Thursday. Okay, and I'll have a better report next time,
Okay.
John. Okay. Strategic Plan Committee report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council and staff, Todd Kennedy, your city planner again. Strategic Planning Committee did not meet this month. The agenda didn't come in time. It was already past the 72 hours, so we could not meet. But we should, hopefully, we'll have a report for you next month.
All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is, these are public hearing items. A is Valle Vista Landscape and Lighting Maintenance Assessment, District Number 1. Adopt a resolution confirming a diagram and assessment for fiscal year 2019-2020. The second part is adopt a resolution certifying compliance with state laws with respect to the levying of general and special tax assessments and property-related fees and charges. You have a staff report from Interim City Manager.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, at a previous meeting, you adopted a resolution of intention and a resolution calling this public hearing this evening. We've mailed notice to each of the affected property owners. The assessment is the same as in the prior year, so there's no change. So it'd be appropriate to ask if there's any public comment on the assessments. Consider that comment, and then it would be our recommendation that you adopt the two resolutions.
Okay, we'll now open this meeting to a public hearing on this item.
Ken Hoyle? Who?
Hi, I'm Ken Hool. I live at 15 Awani. Regarding is everything going to stay the same as far as maintenance? I've had trouble with the Valley Vista, the retention pond. No maintenance. Are we talking about the same thing, right?
So, if you'd like me to respond?
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Hool, and members of the community, the Valley Vista District is for the so-called copper...
Lighting and Landscaping District?
What's the name of the subdivision? Sorry. Creek Bridge subdivision.
Yeah.
And the property owners pay for several services. One is street lighting, one is maintenance of the public landscaping, one is maintenance of that small little pocket park with the gazebo, and maintenance of the detention basin. It is correct that in prior years we have not been able to give much attention to it. this year's budget, which is later on in the council agenda this evening, we do propose to spend, I believe it's $5,000 to maintain that basin. It doesn't increase your assessments. There are sufficient reserves in the district, so we will be doing additional work there.
Yeah, I've been concerned over the years, my neighbor, nobody wants to pay for the upkeep of the retention pond because I'm the only person living next to it, me and one other person.
Congratulations.
No, it's not. It's a green froth. And regarding that is I've noticed with the new development next to me is that their flood areas or their retention areas, what do you call the water? Collection areas, right? Why is mine the only one full of water? Right? It seems like theirs is actually, I thought for years, I really thought that this was because of the water table was higher. But it's not, because the other side of the wall is lower, but it's dry. And so I'm just wondering, why is my retention pond have to be a pond? Why can't we let it dry out in the summer instead of just always growing this green froth?
Well, the purpose of the budget item, and as I discussed earlier, is to manage the vegetation in the basin so that it can effectively work and percolate. It is a detention basin, but it is also true that several neighborhoods within the community drain to that basin. So every time somebody's washing their car illegally out in the street, going down the curb,
yeah, but I don't think
basin.
that's not really the cause, and I'm sorry, the green froth, I'm sure. And I just would like it, is there any way we can maintain it to a little more acceptable level?
Yeah, yes. And that is our intention.
Okay, I'd appreciate it. I've been after this for about 15 years now.
It's been a long time.
I come up every time, at least every couple of years and just ask that you guys maintain it the way I was promised when I bought the place.
Well, you and your neighbors are paying for the privilege, and it's our responsibility to maintain it. We provide enough funds in the budget to do it.
I appreciate what you do. I'm not knocking the city. I'm just asking that when we do the budget, can we make sure that there's money in the budget to maintain the retention pond the way I was promised in the very beginning? And one other little gripe about that retention, I know that. But just one, it's just now I've noticed lately that not only in the retention pond, there's a lift station, and that lift station's getting awful smelly now. I mean, it's almost intolerable. All I'm asking is you don't turn my little corner of paradise into a septic pit.
I do, if I can interrupt or interject, there is money from your friends in Rancho Vista to repair and rehabilitate that lift station.
Okay.
I believe I'm not certain, but I believe it's a complete overhaul or redo.
Well, yeah, was the whole
No?
thing.
Okay.
No,
Councilmember Freeman is referring to a different and brand new lift station that Rancho Vista's putting in. This is the Awani lift station. And
But it's right, if you know where he lives, it's right next to Rancho Vista.
Yes.
Okay, so they're not going to fix that one? No?
Rancho Vista is not responsible
Okay, I
for maintaining the Awani lift station.
So
That is the responsibility of the city's sewer operations department. We'll take note of it and try to address it.
Okay.
yeah, because right now isn't the new development dumping into this lift station?
No.
No. Okay. I understood in the beginning it was. It was part of the plan. So I just don't know what's causing the odors. It seems to be greater now than ever.
We'll try to find out for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Leanna Brothers.
Hi, I'm Leanna Brothers, live at 7 Awani Street, and I just want to clarify, I think I'm misunderstanding, so there's no increase in our assessment, or there will be increase when you guys look at the budget? I'm trying to understand what I'm hearing here.
We are proposing no increase in the assessment
This
for the coming year.
Okay, all right. With that in mind, I am an original owner in this neighborhood, and to date, we have not had our light poles, because this is maintenance of landscape and lighting. Our light poles have not been painted. They're actually gone down a couple layers of whatever the original paint and primers are, so I think we have a few colors going on now. A few of the light fixtures at the top have been broken, and last year's windstorm with the trees, they did come through and maintain the trees and get some of the larger branches off, but they broke a few of the glass tops, and a few of our neighbors called that in when it was in front of their homes, and a few, from what we saw, they were repaired with duct tape and not replaced. They are, I believe, a type of glass. I'm assuming what do you call it? If it breaks, it doesn't. Thank you. Yeah. But anyway, we all have talked about it, and we would hope that the maintenance would be to paint our light post and to have glass fixtures replaced. It's been there. We've been there 16 years, and we would hope that some money would be used towards that maintenance as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
That's all the cards I have.
Okay, anyone else? We'll now close the public hearing. Discussion by council. The possible action is a motion to adopt resolution 2019 confirming a diagram and assessment in connection with Valle Vista Landscape and Lighting Maintenance Assessment District Number 1 for fiscal year 2019-20. Okay.
I'll move that we do that.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Do we need public input in this?
You've had it. Yeah.
We just had it.
All right, so we have a motion to adopt the resolution confirming a diagram and assessment in connection with the landscape and lighting maintenance. We have a motion and a second. No more discussion. I'll call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Second part of this is motion to adopt resolution 2019 certifying compliance with state law with respect to the levying of general and special taxes, assessments, and property-related fees and charges. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt such resolution.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 2019-26.
26.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? No more discussion. Call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. Adopt the budget as revised. Approve a resolution making certain findings, determinations, and comply with Section 13B of the California Constitution, which is the GAN initiative. And approve a resolution adopting a holiday schedule in fiscal year 2019-2020. Staff report. Interim City Manager, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, about a month ago, we presented you with the city manager's recommended budget for the upcoming fiscal year. The council conducted a budget workshop, and during that workshop, we discussed a series of revisions to the recommendation. We'll just go through them quickly. Subsequent to the preparation of the budget, we did receive from the state of California some additional information about gas tax revenue. We talked about that at the workshop, so we proposed to allocate the additional gas tax revenue, wasn't a lot, to our Streets and Storm Drains Department. We proposed, as we just discussed, to conform the revenue from the Valle Vista Landscaping and Lighting District to the Notice of Assessments that you just approved. We proposed during the workshop that you anticipate the expenditure of $80,000 of discretionary fund balance in the general fund for the 4th Street speed tables. At the time we presented you with the budget, we had not anticipated that those would be spent this fiscal year. We now think we can get it under contract this fiscal year. You talked about support for community groups at the workshop, and that included allocating $5,700 from the general fund reserves to support community arts project, to allocate $20,000 from the general fund reserves to support the San Juan Committee. And we had considerable discussion about the extent to which the City Council should provide in the budget for across-the-board or other salary increases to employees. In the budget packet, and at the time, I recommended to you a 3% across-the-board salary increase, which would be accomplished by amending the salary resolution to increase the salary ranges by 3%. In a supplemental report that's in your packet this evening, I go further and suggest, in addition to that action, that we provide sufficient funds in the budget to provide on January 1st for so-called step increases for employees who have achieved satisfactory performance based on an evaluation system yet to be determined by the new city manager. If you took both of those actions, 3% across the board effective July the 1st, a potential for 5% step increases in January, we would need to increase the budget by $30,941. And in the agenda supplemental material, I've outlined the funds from which those additional monies would be required. So those are the proposed revisions we discussed during the budget workshop and my recommendation for salary increases this evening. The Planning Commission has reviewed the capital improvement program and, as required by law, has made the finding that it conforms to the general plan. And it is now appropriate for you to open a public hearing, hear from the public regarding the proposed budget, and then consider the series of actions that you mentioned earlier.
All right, thank you. We'll now open this for public hearing. Those wishing to speak on this item, please submit your card. Stand up. No comments? We open public hearing. There's no comments. We now close public hearing. Discussion by council? Do we have any discussion?
So, Mayor, there may be questions. I'm sorry, I apologize. So the first action is, do you wish to adopt the budget as revised as I've described it?
Okay, the first motion is to adopt resolution 2019 adopting San Juan Bautista municipal budget for fiscal year 2019-2020. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Or aye?
Aye.
All right.
Abstentions or?
I lost it.
Mr. Mayor, the second item is a rather obscure provision of the California Constitution, the so-called GAN limit. Each year you are to adopt a limitation on the amount, what's called the proceeds of taxes can only be spent up to that limit. That limit is rarely reached because it gets adjusted each year by the cost of living and by population increases. But nonetheless, we must report to the Department of Finance what our GAN limit is each year, so it'd be appropriate to adopt a resolution with the numbers provided by our city accountant.
Okay, we don't have public hearing.
You've conducted the public hearing.
We already did. Okay, well, the chair will entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2019-27,
27?
making certain findings.
20?
28.
28. Making certain findings and determination of plan of section 13B of the 12B of the California Constitution, which is the GAN initiative. Do we have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, sign by aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
And finally, with respect to the budget, Mr. Mayor, I guess it's my understanding that the council annually adopts a resolution establishing the holiday schedule and the days that City Hall and city business will be closed. And so that resolution is before you.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2019-29, adopting a holiday schedule for fiscal year 2019-2020.
I make a motion to adopt the holiday schedule for 2019-2020.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll call for the question. All in favor respond by aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. C, adopt a resolution approving an increase to Recology solid waste collection rates effective July 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020. Staff report.
Ms. Gallagher will provide from the Integrated Waste Management Authority.
Good evening, Kathleen Gallagher, San Benito County Integrated Waste Management Manager. Wanted to present the item before you was to approve the solid waste collection rates effective July 1st of 2019 through June 30th of 2020. You might recall at the April 16th meeting that the City Council adopted the resolution for us to issue Prop 218 notices to the property managers in San Juan Bautista. We released those on April 24th. The way Prop 218 works is a majority protest. We had mailed out, thanks to Recology, 552 notices. The threshold for Prop 218, which is a majority protest, would be 50% plus one. So that would be 277 protest letters. As of the time of our staff report writing, we had received 2 protests, so I would ask the clerk if we have received any additional.
There are some additionals, there's a total of 4.
Total of 4, okay. That does not meet the Prop 218 threshold, so the item before you is to approve the solid waste rates. And I'm happy to answer any questions. We also have Phil Couchet, who's the general manager for Recology. Any additional questions?
Well, Ms. Gallagher, I'd like to bring up what I brought up last time, and I thought, and your RFP, which I have right here, showed that we were going to use compressed natural gas trucks. And as you may or may, we have a disagreement here, but I think they burn cleaner and provide better health for the citizens of San Benito County and San Juan Bautista. So I would like to see Recology move towards compressed natural gas trucks instead of diesel. And I know you're using biodiesel, but they still produce PM10 and PM 5.2. And if you talk to the Air Pollution Control Board, they'll tell you it's bad.
Thank you for that. We did have an inclusion in the proposal as well when we did our entire analysis of the proposal that showed that the greenhouse gas emissions were 66% less than the diesel and ran less than the CNG. So I might ask Phil Couchet to come up here and answer more specific questions, and we could actually go perhaps into a separate conversation and more detail whenever you might be available.
Anytime.
Sure.
As Ms. Gallagher said, there was in the proposal 2 options.
You are who?
Oh, I'm Phil Couchet. I'm General Manager of Recology San Benito County. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. There were options that were asked for in the RFP, and CNG was one of the options, and we did bid CNG, and renewable diesel was another option. Not biodiesel, it's renewable diesel. There are no petroleum products in renewable diesel, and that's what we're currently using, and that is what the RA members selected, was the renewable diesel option. It was a less expensive option. The cost of the vehicles themselves are about $30,000 to $40,000 less than the CNG vehicles.
Okay.
Thank you. Public comment? No? Yes.
Any other
We
questions?
have no more questions.
Thank you.
Thank
Good, thank you.
Public comment? Do anybody have? Public comment period is closed. Discussion by council. Any discussion? Any?
We kind of voted on it when we picked the vendor a year and a half ago.
In that case, we'll move to approve the motion, the resolution number 2019-30, approving increase to recology solid waste collection rates effective July 2019 to June 30, 2020. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we approve the solid waste collection.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Call for the question, all in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Thank you. Action items. Appoint city manager. Where is my? I don't have it. Do we have a? Report? Is it in here?
On each one.
Okay. We have a recommendation to appoint Don Reynolds as city manager and approve attached employment agreement. Do we need to go through this whole agreement?
No.
Okay. So we'll have open it up for discussion for public comment.
Can you give
Any
us some
public comment?
background? Can you give us some background?
Pardon, you want some background? Mr. Reynolds is currently Assistant Director of Public Works for the City of Salinas. He began his public service career over 30 years ago in the city of Agoura Hills. He's held planning, redevelopment, and public works positions in the cities of Agoura Hills, Moore Park, and Salinas. He's a graduate of Cal State Northridge, from which he earned a master's degree in public administration. He lives in Salinas with his wife and family. The subcommittee of the city council comprised of myself, and the vice mayor has negotiated the attached employment agreement and recommended its approval to the full council. Under the agreement, Mr. Reynolds will receive an annual salary of $132,000 and all other benefits provided to manager employees of the city of San Juan Bautista. Mr. Reynolds will receive a vacation allowance of 3 weeks annually, which shall be advanced upon his initial hiring. We propose that Mr. Reynolds receive a performance evaluation after his first 6 months, and that the council and Mr. Reynolds agree on performance goals which will be assessed in subsequent yearly evaluations over the 3-year term of agreement. The council retains the right to authorize additional compensation in the future based on those evaluations. The agreement provides that Mr. Reynolds is an at-will employee who may be terminated at any time consistent with the municipal code and shall be entitled to a severance payment of 2 months' salary in that unlikely event. Mr. Reynolds brings experience, energy, and a commitment to San Juan that will allow the city to continue to make progress and the community to thrive. Any comments? If there's no public comments, the chair will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2019-31.
That's correct.
Approving an agreement between the city and Don Reynolds for city manager services. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move it.
Second,
I'll second.
any further discussion? Call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries.
Congratulations.
Welcome aboard.
Don Reynolds, step up, please. Don? I'll come over.
Wait, take your thing off.
Unhook.
I always do that. I want to officially want to welcome you.
So this is, thank you very much for your
raise that
support,
up.
for your unanimous support. That means a lot. And thank you also to Ed for all the hard work he's put in serving your city. You're so fortunate to find an interim with his skill set. And that was a big reason why I came, because as a member of the International City Managers Association, I hope to bring a professional etiquette and standard for the city as far as the career of being a public administrator, which is my choice 30 years ago, and I'm continuing to be dedicated to that. So I look forward to serving the city, become more and more familiar with all of your challenges. And of course, we have our challenges in Salinas, so this is just another chapter for me. And I'm excited, and I'm ready to make a difference with you, City Council, and moving forward in San Juan Bautista. So thank you very much for your support.
Thank you.
Also, at this time, not on the agenda, but I would like to personally thank Ed for all the work he's done for us. He's done a marvelous job. Okay, we move on. Introduce an ordinance amending section 2-8050, increasing solicitation thresholds in accordance with new thresholds set by the state relative to bid process.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, some months ago you adopted an ordinance establishing new purchasing procedures, including bidding for public projects that allow us to get more projects out faster. And in the meantime, the state changed and allowed additional opportunities to do that, and this ordinance would conform to the new state law by establishing the thresholds for when no bidding is required, when informal bidding is required, and when formal bidding is required. No changes proposed to the ordinance that requires the city manager at all times to try to achieve a competitive proposal. So with that, we recommend the introduction of the ordinance increasing those thresholds for bidding on public projects.
Okay. The recommended action is to introduce an ordinance increasing thresholds for public projects that may be awarded without competitive bidding, with informal bids and formal bidding. The no bidding requires projects up to $60,000. Informal bidding process projects between $60,000 and $200,000, and formal bidding required projects over $200,000. That's the ordinance. Okay. So we'll open this for a public comment. Is there any public comment? Is there no public comment? We close the public comment period. Possible action. Motion to introduce an ordinance amending chapter 2.8 to revise section 2.8-050, San Juan Bautista Municipal Code, increasing solicitation thresholds in accordance with new thresholds set by the state. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to, for ordinance 2019. Laura?
Amending.
We don't assign a
Amending
number
it.
at this
Oh,
time.
right, we're just amending. Okay,
Amending.
amending
Do we
it.
have a second? Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? If no discussion, we call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Consider whether to adopt a city position on the San Benito County zone changes implementing the commercial regional land use designations.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, at your last meeting, you asked that this item be placed on the agenda for the opportunity to consider whether or not the city should take an official position. Yes. Councilmember DeVries has an announcement first.
Yeah, I'd like to recuse myself.
You bet. Thank you. Okay.
So just briefly, some years ago, the county adopted a general plan that designated what have come to be known as commercial nodes as regional commercial opportunities. Recently, the Planning Commission of the county considered the establishment of a zoning district to conform to that prior general plan decision. Rather than going to an existing menu, the county created a new zoning designation called Regional Commercial C3. And under that zoning designation, as recommended by the County Planning Commission, actual development would require the preparation and approval of master plans before any building permits may be issued. The staff reports from the County Planning Commission are attached to your agenda. In this staff report and in other correspondence with the council, have advised you that there's a very large packet of material available to the County Planning Commission, almost 500 pages, including all the supplementary material, environmental review, et cetera. The staff report indicated at the time we wrote it that the Board of Supervisors would consider the Planning Commission's recommendation on June 25th. I've now been advised that that has been postponed for an additional month, so the hearing before the Board of Supervisors will be in July. That concludes the staff report.
Okay. The recommendation here is to consider whether the city of San Juan Bautista should adopt an official position on the proposal to establish a zoning district conforming to the county general plan at 4 highway locations. The background is the council is requesting an opportunity to consider adopting a position on zoning proposal for the county board of supervisors. And on May 15th, the County Planning Commission considered the attached staff report and recommended that the Board of Supervisors approve a new zoning district to implement the county general plan designation of 4 highway locations for regional commercial. The board is scheduled to hear the proposal at its meeting on June 25th, 2019, but that's just been changed. The full County Planning Commission packet is nearly 500 pages and is available to review on, there's a link here. The new zone, regional commercial, C3, requires subsequent approval of master plans before any building permits may be issued. The attached county staff report discusses the conditions of approval and development standards for the 4 locations. The background materials for each of the projects did not specifically analyze impact, if any, on the city of San Juan Bautista. Okay, now we will open this for public comment.
Cara Bonk.
Thank you, members of the City Council. Cara Bonk, 609 3rd Street. I'm asking that the City of San Juan Bautista officially oppose San Benito County's amended general plan and propose zoning changes that change from agricultural to C3 or commercial regional development or zoning at 4 Highway 101 interchanges. The zoning will allow the building of commercial, fast food restaurants, hotels, etc. This is going to forever change and impact our beautiful natural and cultural landscape. As explained in the city's last general plan, the rural landscape is imperative for our city. It sets the stage for an authentic experience in our historic city. Let me review the 4 proposals. Number 1, at Beta Bell, 55.5 acres to be developed into some kind of postmodern, Florida-themed amusement park. To me, it looks Art Deco with neon marquees and signs, a 150-room hotel. The buildings can be up to 35 feet high, and with special approval, up to 65 feet high, square footage, 85,000 square feet, and can go higher. The second proposal is at Highway 129, 39.7 acres, and this theme is early farmstead. The third one, Rocks Road, 72 acres, Old California Village. What do we have here in town? An authentic village. And then the fourth one is at Cole Road, which is they call Livestock 101. I believe it's ranch. It's 159 acres. And the county planning department, or planning, the board there, they did approve a general plan change at their last meeting, or they're recommending that to the County Board of Supervisors, as well as the zoning. You know, motorists have rights too, to enjoy the beauty of our county. This proposal will kill everything we hold dear. It's going to urbanize all of those intersections. I ask that you ask the county to amend their general plan to remove that commercial designation and to get rid of that commercial zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment?
Tom Karas.
Hi, I'm Tom Karras, and I live in Aromas. And I have some comments to make that may hopefully help you make your decision. My wife and I moved to Aromas to get away from the city about 20 years ago, and we oppose the commercial rezoning that will create urban sprawl at the end of our road and along the freeway. The scenic countryside from San Juan to Beta Bowl Road will be spoiled by commercial development. Our neighborhood water wells dried up in the 1990s. Household water wells are going dry because of aquifer overdraft. The proposed commercial development will accelerate the loss of household water wells in the area. It is already difficult to exit the freeway onto San Juan Road during commute hours. Commercial developments at Livestock 101 and Rocks Ranch will create unsafe traffic conditions at this interchange, as well as contributing to the existing gridlock along the 101 corridor. So in conclusion, I respectfully request that the City Council opposes the zoning changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Matthew Beachy.
Hi, my name is Matthew Beachy. I also live in Aromas in San Benito County. My concerns have to do with what's going to happen with traffic. We all know that we already have enough traffic that comes in through here, and if we are putting in motels, gas stations, all that on the 101 corridor, we are going to be changing effectively what happens in San Benito County and making it look like Morgan Hill, no disrespect, or Gilroy, or San Jose, and what's going to be going on our drives here. The other part is they'd like to say that, you know, we're going to make it invisible from the highway. We're going to set them back a bit. No, I want to remind us all that we do not live on the highway. And so when we get off these exits where we live, we will be accosted with the sight of these types of touristy places. And frankly, if I want to come see older California, if I want to come see and be involved with it, I'd rather come here than to stop off on an exit on 101. I'm also concerned about what's going to happen with our water resources. You know, we pull our water from the ground, and if we've got all these hotels that are also sucking up that water, what's going to happen to our water tables? What's going to happen with our abilities to use the water that is already on our land? I am concerned as well about the wildlife corridors. I don't think that we have, I mean, they did do original analysis when these nodes were just little pinpoints on the maps. Now they're up to 55 acres, 150 acres. They have not done a new analysis, and I think they're going to want to try to skate through without doing that. And so we're going to impact our natural wildlife here, as well as what we're actually doing for ourselves around that. We like to live here out in the rural community, and this will change the face of our county without question. So, in ending here, I do encourage you to not support the county's project to rezone the properties as proposed along 101. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Colin Kosmicki.
Good evening, Honorary Council. These changes would forever diminish the beauty of this primary gateway to San Benito County. Think about this. These over-commercialized, shallow, humiliating commercial concepts are how the rest of the world would see San Benito County going forward forever, as a cartoonish joke. To the vast majority of outsiders, San Benito County will be a community that embraces empty commercialism, We'll be a community that sells our collective soul for a few dollars because our ever-growing drive for revenue at any cost will get the better of us. We will lose what makes us special and unique, all while failing to embrace the economic potential of our natural resources. With regard to local government leaders' obsession with what I call revenue at all costs, it comes across as desperate and needy on the part of elected officials. If all we care about is revenue in San Benito County, and I don't believe the majority of residents feel that way, then why did we not move ahead with the casino on Highway 25 15 years ago? Why did we not rubber stamp the DMV proposal for 7,000 homes 11 years ago? Why does San Juan Bautista itself maintain a law that restricts chain businesses from opening here? It's because we do care. It's because we do have a choice. We can do better, and we should have greater expectations for ourselves as a community. Make no mistake, these are permanent changes that would dilute our sense of identity and forever change the landscape of San Benito County for the worse. And there's nothing we can do to change that reality if we take these steps. Do we want to become a suburb of San Jose or another Salinas? Because that's where we're headed. In San Benito County, we constantly and rightfully stress the importance of maintaining our cultural and aesthetic identities, even as time and special interests invariably and continuously put those assets at risk. That is what makes us special. That is what makes us San Benito County. To bring the point closer to home, what if the county was proposing these nodes for Highway 156, or at the entrance to near the entrance to San Juan Bautista? What if the county included the intersection of 156 and 101 as originally conceived? How would San Juan Bautista residents and the San Juan Council feel about it then? To go further, what happened in District 4 in South San Benito County 6 years ago when the community simply tried to change the name of Airline Highway to Pinnacles National Park? The former county supervisor there heard a rash of complaints from constituents who have a disdain toward the national park and put a halt to changing the highway name. Another argument we've heard from advocates talking points is that the moves would merely implement plans as part of the general plan as approved 4 years ago, and that locals should have spoken up during that time. The truth is, there was very little, if any, publicity at the time about the nodes as part of a much broader document, and that's beside the point. This is not a done deal, at least not yet. People have the right to speak up against the project at various stages, including this one. Yes, as supporters have pointed out, any project plans would have to go through the appropriate planning process. The truth is, if the county goes forward and ignores the residents against these nodes, the projects will get respective rubber stamps, and we all know that's the reality.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colin.
Any other comments?
Gina Palomini.
Thank you, Gina Paulini. I represent Preserve Our Rural Communities, which is a grassroots organization.
Where are you from?
Represent Preserve Our Rural Communities.
Where are you from?
From Aromas.
Okay.
So we're a grassroots community organization that organized because of the county's proposal. And so I really want to thank everybody that's here tonight to really speak about this project. We encourage the city to voice their opinion regarding this project and really send a message to the county that they would not support the county's proposal to rezone these nodes. They really will impact our community and our way of life. And we really are opposed to the project, and we're going to do whatever we can to stop the project. We believe that their environmental documents that they prepared for these rezonings are inappropriate and haven't really fully analyzed all the impacts that they will have to the community. And so we're moving forward with and gaining more and more support, as you can see tonight. So we hope that you will send a strong message to the county and oppose the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie Morris.
Once again, City Council, and I just want to thank my fellow citizens of both San Juan Bautista and Aromas that spoke before me, and I thank Ms. Caravant for her research into detailing all the different nodes and projects that are being proposed. I feel that we are, being sort of bamboozled by this, being told that this is going to be off the highway, it's not going to be an eyesore. But I agree with everything that's been said before me, and what I really want to speak to is that we have a collective of citizens here from both Aromas and San Juan Bautista. We are unique in our communities. We're rural communities. We want to stay that way. We have rich histories in both communities. We are rural. Okay, we have chosen to live here and not Hollister. And I'm going to stick my neck out here that Hollister has maybe their, 3 supervisors, 4 supervisors sitting on the county supervisors board. We're represented by 1, which is District 2. We have very, very valid points of why we want to keep our community rural. And I feel that we need to partner up with Aromas and speak out and really urge you. I'm not urging, I'm imploring you to please take the stance to oppose this. You have the strength and numbers. We maybe not be sprawling like Hollister. Look at the mistakes they've made already. We do not need them to bleed over into our little paradise with their, 4 supervisors against our 1, because we do have community members that are well educated, that are passionate, that are farmers, that, we're just normal everyday people that want our space. I don't want to live in a community where there's so much traffic now. I don't want to have a Great America theme park 5 miles north up the road. I like Aromas. I like Aromas people. I like our communities. I like the openness. I do not want urban sprawl, because once you approve this and let it go through, then what comes next? Homes, condos, okay? We don't want any of that. So please take a stance, a very strong one. You may be small, but you have the voices and you have the people here to back you up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andy Hisakora.
Good evening. My name is Andy Shah Koran, and I'm here to speak in favor of you taking a stand against the rezoning of the nodes on Highway 101. A lot of folks have talked about how this will negatively impact the area along 101 in terms of water, in terms of traffic, in terms of the character of the community. I would like you to think about what impact these developments will have on San Juan Bautista, which is your primary responsibility. Essentially, the county's idea here is that they were going to try to commandeer some of the traffic and some of the business as it goes down Highway 101. Very much like when we used to waylay strangers as they passed through the area and hope to pick their pockets as they go by. It's part of the history of the region. But the downside of it is that what we really want in San Benito County is for people to take a left turn if they're heading south and come here to San Juan Bautista, stay in a hotel here, go to a restaurant here, not go to a fast food restaurant on the highway, not stay in a hotel over there. So in effect, by doing these projects, you're going to see a loss in the revenues of San Juan Bautista, and you're going to see a loss in the potential for really economic development here. It's a very short-sighted strategy of catching the people on that highway, and it will increase traffic even more, making more frustrated people all around the area. The idea of it, I think, was snuck in toward the end of the planning process. Nobody in the region really had a clue that this was happening, and certainly not to the extent that they're talking about. So I think the best bet is for this council to tell the supervisors, no, you haven't really thought this out very well. You need to evaluate its economic impact on this city. You need to evaluate the economic impact on the county itself. You need to look at traffic. You need to look at water. You need to look at everything that you have not looked at already. And I think going slow would be the right approach and saying no. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Mary Koran.
Good evening. My name's Mary, and I've lived for 33 years in the area that's near 2 of the nodes on Highway 101. My address is Aromas, but I'm kind of between Aromas and San Juan Bautista. And my concern is, or one of my main concerns is water. Aromas aquifers are in overdraft right now, and I know many people who have lost their wells. So the nodes where, the 2 of the nodes that are, the one that's closest to the Red Barn, it's actually north of the Red Barn in the really beautiful hills there, and then across the highway on the other side at 1-1 Livestock Auction, those areas where they're proposing pretty significant, I think it's 120 some room hotels on both sides of the highway with restaurants, gas stations, etc., that impact on our water would be tremendous because right behind the Red Barn is a development called Ballantree, and they have lost all their wells about 15 or so years ago. So they are hooked up to the Aromas Water District. And further, just a little south in the development called Oak Ridge, they've lost all their wells. And so they're hooked up at $65,000, I believe, per household, hooked up to Aromas Water District. And then also Chateau Drive, which is near Cannon Road, they lost their wells. And then just this past year, some of my friends on Cole Road have lost their wells. So we're in an area where water is a real problem. And to put these massive hotels in and other developments, I think is really irresponsible. I feel that, we have talked to the Planning Commission and many of us and have talked to individuals who are elected officials, and they don't seem to think that it's the right time to raise this issue. And we think it really is. Before you rezone, you need to address these types of things, because the danger is that once it's rezoned, the landowners, I think they've negotiated something where they have set a cap. The county has said they only need to spend $120,000 to study the situation. And we think that's not enough money, because I think they're almost out of money. And to do that artificial cap is really irresponsible. These types of studies, the impact on all of us on water, there's also traffic, which is already very bad on 101. Some of you might have noticed. And just the quality of life. It's also a wildlife corridor, this area that, along 101. It's a very sensitive, environmentally sensitive area with the Pajaro River, this a little bit north, Pajaro River and the San Benito River, come together at Betabel. And so to have a big development there where this, I went to a public meeting about it, the septic is supposed to be above ground because they cannot do it underground because it's a floodplain. And so, when there is eventually a flood, the sewage would go right into the Pajaro River. There's a lot of things like that. I'm not personally totally against development. I think it would have to be done extremely sensitively and, not something so massive. But what they're proposing is just very cookie cutter, even though they're just putting a label on, like, I think they're calling it something like Ohlone Village or something, because it's in my area by the Red Barn, it's near Pentecote Peak, which is historically a very religious, the rocks are very historically important for the Ohlone Indians. And then across the highway, they wanted to call it a dude ranch. But it's pretty much, a hotel, it's very standard. They just want to slap a name on it to make it seem like they've thought about the context for all of us. But in any case, what I want to say is I think it's very poorly planned, and I would suggest that all of you vote to not allow the rezoning until there's more work being done or research. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Mary.
Any more comments?
I don't have any more cards.
Oh, here we go.
Jolene Cosio?
181 Lang Street. Does anybody remember Herb Kane from the San Francisco Chronicle? Yes. He used to come down from San Francisco, go to Monterey, and then spend an afternoon or an evening in San Juan, and he would write about the difference and how wonderful it was to come to San Juan after being in Monterey. And I don't object to an occasional new gas station, restaurant, even a hotel from coming into the area. If it's in San Juan, we can use the income. I'm sure the county can also use the income. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about massive development. It's not going to increase tourism in our city particularly. It's going to increase tourism in the areas where they built it. And the income isn't going to come into our city. It's going to come into the area. We have plenty of people passing by here already that we could capture with, I hate to say it because people don't like this, a new gas station, a new hotel, that kind of thing, right here. And without destroying ag land. I worked in ag for 60 years in ag research, and I just, no, excuse me, 60, I'm not that old. Wait a minute, let's try 40 years. It's so important not to destroy natural habitat, open spaces, ag land, waterways. It's just not a good idea. And I want to encourage the public here who's speaking to attend the San Benito Planning Commission, the San Benito Board of Supervisor meetings, and express their opinions, because historically, what San Juan says doesn't really matter. But if all these people go to those meetings, I think it'll carry a lot more weight than even our entire council saying, we don't want this. Because our entire council said, we don't want any more than a 4-lane highway, and they're giving us a 6-lane highway on 156. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jolene.
Any comments? Is that it?
Well, I'd like to say that I agree with all the comments, and I don't really think that it was very well planned out. I don't think I read the report. It's like over 600 pages, and it just looks like a cookie cutter thing to me, and I'm sorry, we need to let the supervisors know that we are concerned and that we want to put a stop to it. They haven't planned it out. And I agree about the water. The water tables are all low. And I read the reports and they all say that there's plenty of water. And you know, it just, I don't know, that's, my feeling is we need to stand up to them and say no.
I agree, wholeheartedly.
Any other? John?
Well, yeah, I have quite a few comments on it. First of all, I'm going to respond to the email or letter we got asking us to disclose any conversations we've had with people, and so I will disclose that I've had an extensive conversation with Councilman DeVries on this subject. I will also disclose I've had an extensive conversation with Mary Shaw Carone and her husband Andy Carone and many other people, and Carl Vunk and many other people in Aroma. So I feel I have heard both sides. I think there is another side. The county does need money. 8 RMA directors in 10 years is not a good situation. I don't care what any of you say, that's not a good situation. However, the traffic, the water, and everything else overpowers that, and I basically agree with Mary, and there's a reason why none of us can go to Howard Johnson's and buy a meal anymore. That 1950s, 60s roadside Americana is kaput. You know, it wasn't very good to begin with, and it's not very good now. And I don't know what they were thinking, the Planning Commission, when they did that. They really should have rethought that big time. Yeah, particularly the traffic, because when any of us try and go to Monterey or Salinas late in the evening, let's say 4 o'clock on, how long does it take you to get from Rocks Road to 101? Any guesses?
Too long.
Too long. That, yeah. Sometimes it's a half hour, and that's good. This thing is going to make it a lot worse. The report glossed over, I feel the report glossed over the traffic situation. I feel the traffic situation is the worst. You know, when you go down 101, you head to that 101 livestock, and they're going to put something up there, and they really haven't said what, and they haven't figured it out yet, but that's a dangerous part of 101. It's curvy, it's narrow. There's beautiful eucalyptus trees kind of overhanging the whole thing. I wouldn't want to see those destroyed. To make you're going to have an off-turn lane and a non-ramp, and none of that's been thought through, and none of us been planned for until I can see something really concrete that doesn't destroy any of the things I just mentioned. I cannot be for this.
Well, last thing, I forgot to disclose that I did talk to Andy and Mary about this.
well, what I hear is a possible action is to submit our position as negative against it to the county. However, I agree with the fact that all of us need to go to those meetings at the county so they can hear us. We can send a letter, and there's no problem, but, you know, they'll take it and say, okay. But when you got 20 or 30 people standing in a meeting, it's gonna make a change.
All of us and our neighbors.
Show up at the next meeting when they go to vote on it.
But we need to,
All of us.
yeah, and we need to put it in writing, though. We need to put something in writing.
We need a draft of what we're gonna put together. So, the possible action is to draft a letter in opposition to the commercial regional land use designation. Am I correct there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, the chair will entertain a motion to move on this possible action.
I will move that we write a letter to the supervisors letting us know our position.
I second that.
Stating your what? Opposition.
Stating our opposition.
So we have a motion by Mary, second by Leslie. Any further discussion? John, any-
Do you want to delegate to someone the duty to draft that letter?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I definitely will do that.
Yeah.
And can
To
we
the
have help
attorneys.
could you help us?
Sure, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so part of the motion then would be to give direction to our city attorney
Yes.
to draft a letter. Okay, there's no more discussion. We'll call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Thank you all for coming and speaking up to this. And like somebody out there said, we all need to go, and all of your families and all of your friends need to go to these meetings. Thank you.
I can tell you that the meeting that everybody can go to is the supervisors meeting on July the 23rd. They're actually going to vote on. June? It's July.
July.
Yes, we were told that.
They have postponed the
I
meeting
guess, yeah.
to July.
Well, let's have an argument on when the meeting is.
Yeah, that would be the first thing we would want to know. Is it July 23rd?
Yeah.
July 23rd, okay.
Welcome back. I know. Did you
All
get
right.
cold?
We'll move on to the next item on our agenda is to approve the reimbursement agreement with Meritage Homes for installation of 18-inch sewer main.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council,
Could we have some quiet out there, please? Give her the date, sir, sorry. Beg your pardon? I was giving her the date, sorry, sir. Okay. Go ahead, Ed.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we're recommending the approval of a specific reimbursement agreement with Meritage Homes. You may recall that as a condition of approval, Meritage was asked to build an 18-inch sewer trunk line across the frontage of their property that would not be necessarily used by the city in the near future. It was intended to be a potential future extension to a possible relocated wastewater treatment plant. The general plan actually does not specifically say there ought to be a relocated wastewater treatment plant, but in 3 or 4 places it, quote, suggests that the city council consider it. So based on that suggestion, a condition was included in the approval of the Rancho Vista project that they would build this 18-inch line. That reduces its ultimate cost since the construction could be done in a joint trench and at the same time as the other utilities were being mobilized. The city agreed as part of that agreement to reimburse the developers of Rancho Vista for the cost of that. Our city engineer, Harris Engineer, has finally come to a reckoning with Meritage, and the verified cost of the installation is $513,802.33. We ask that the council approve this reimbursement agreement that is consistent with those conditions of approval.
Thank you. Any discussion here? Anybody?
Well,
I do have a comment.
Yeah, let's hear that first.
Okay, we'll go to public comment. We'll open public comment at this time.
Tony Bach.
Tony Bach, 707 4th Street. A couple of years ago, Meritage came up with well, it was when Roger was still here, and they came up with some ridiculous number. And I had requested at that time that we get a couple of pipeline companies to tell us how much that 18-inch line, and I think it's about, if I'm not mistaken, it's about 1,200 feet long. And of course, the whole idea was that eventually we might have a sewer plant way out there, but that was the reason for the pipeline. And I didn't hear the number.
$513,800 and change.
Okay, and that was, you feel that's a legitimate?
Well, we asked, so as a condition of the agreement was that those costs had to be verified by the city engineer, and there has been considerable amount of exchange of information back and forth to justify that cost, and this is the number that the city engineer has verified.
Okay, that's was my concern, is that I remember they were looking for $800 and some thousand, and it was just a ridiculous number. So, sounds like it's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
Any other public comment?
No other cards.
Okay, we'll close the public comment period. Possible action, motion to approve the reimbursement agreement with Meritage Homes for installation of an 18-inch sewer main. The chair will entertain a motion. Anyone?
I have a question.
Okay.
A reimbursement cost of $513, and then the next paragraph says, due to the complexity of the administration of the development agreement, Meritage has actually paid $262,000. So where's the 513 come in?
513 is the cost of the improvements to which they're entitled to be reimbursed from sewer connection fees. Because this matter was not resolved, they have paid their sewer connection fees rather than receiving a credit against that 513. So we will pay them $513,000 by crediting them their sewer connection fees. They've already contributed some. As I say, that'll be reimbursed. That reduces the amount that the remaining credit.
And what do we get out of it?
We get a 18-inch sewer trunk line that may be used in the future.
Or may not.
Or may not.
Yes. So, if I may make a comment additionally, this is, Dan and I came on the council too late to stop this. I think we would have, because there was no reason to really have it. There was no proof that it was going to be needed. There was no proof that this many people were going to overwhelm the sewer plant we have up there. There's no evidence presented to the council at any time concerning that fact. There was hints done by the gentleman, the professor from Cal Poly, SLO, who said we might need one, and he and I got into an argument as to where it should be, and anyway. And it just reinforces the need for a survey, a study of both our water and wastewater systems. We should not make decisions based on no data, just on what Roger says. Just, it's not a good way to make a decision.
So what do we do?
We don't really have a choice.
Right, we did. We did this already.
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
Right.
I'm just complaining about history, okay?
Right. It's done. We did it. We goofed. We owe them $513,000.
Yeah.
Okay, well, possible action, motion to approve the reimbursement agreement with Meritage Homes for the installation of 18-inch sewer main. You have a
That's
motion?
ridiculous.
May I clarify something first, Mr. Mayor, would you mind?
Yes, go ahead.
On the sewer connection fees, what percentage has been paid and what percentage remains to be paid? At least I'm assuming the amount we have now is not the total connection fees that we will receive?
Roughly half and half.
Half and half. So we will be getting that much again, but probably not enough to cover the entire cost over time. Sorry.
Let's get out our calculators.
The amount of fees that they would otherwise be required to be paid will be credited against this $500 and some thousand dollars. To the extent that the amount that they are owed is greater than the amount they would have paid, the agreement says we'll pay them off in 10 equal installments, the difference over 10 subsequent years. If it turns out that it is less, if it turns out that they owe more in fees than we owe them, then they will start paying in their 78th and 79th and 80th permit.
Thank you for clarifying that.
And then, weren't we going to get the lift station in return?
That's the next item.
That's, okay.
I already goofed and said that, so.
Okay.
Staff, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
The chair would entertain a motion to approve the reimbursement agreement with Meritage Homes for installation of 18-inch sewer main. Do I hear a motion?
I regretfully make a motion to approve the attached reimbursement agreement.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If no further discussion, we call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item. Review proposed amendments to Meritage Development Agreement and set a public hearing for July 16, 2019.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as easy as that one was, this one is a little more complex. And with your indulgence, I'd like to give maybe an extended staff report for the benefit of the community and the council to explain.
Do so.
So when the original subdivider, Mr. Bob Fulton, entered into a development agreement with the city, the purpose of a development agreement, which is a special kind of agreement under California law and our own municipal code, a development agreement is one in which the proposed developer receives benefits typically by locking in fees and a commitment not to change any subsequent conditions. And in exchange, the public gets benefits in a development agreement. That's why the public gets something in exchange for the benefit that is conveyed to the subdivider. In this instance, the subdivider proposed to lock in the building permit fees and the development impact fees. The city's benefits were cash contributions to the solution to the water problem that was plaguing the community and the nitrate problems that were keeping us from extending any new water connections, but also requiring us to notify our community that they couldn't drink nitrate-laden water without knowing the full risks. As part of the development agreement, as I say, Meritage had, the original subdivider locked in certain fees. The city's benefits were cash contributions. How much cash contributions? Initially, $400,000. In my first stint with the city, we negotiated an additional $100,000. Now we're up to $500,000 of cash contributions from Meritage. Then I had to come back to you and say, in order to acquire well number 6 from Mr. Dale Koch, a condition of that agreement was that he wanted to have a certain number of sewer and water connections provided to his property. That's not free. It was estimated at the time to be at $80,000. And I was successful in getting both Eden Bridge at Copperleaf and Meritage at Rancho Vista to contribute another $40,000. Now we're up to $540,000 of cash contributions. Last winter, in the course of the rains, the city was now beginning the construction of well number 6, and it was in Meritage's interest to accelerate that work during the rain, and they paid our contractor an additional $39,000 for the privilege of getting that work done faster. So They locked in fees at rates that have subsequently changed, and we, the community, received $579,000 of cash contributions toward the water solution. That's the background. However, there is a dispute that has arisen about how to interpret those so-called locked-in rates. It took Meritage several readings. Frankly, it took me several readings of the agreement to realize that it was an unusual kind of agreement. Typical development agreements lock in a specific number for a specific period of time. That's not what this did. It allowed the rates to vary depending on the size of the floor plan that was being proposed. The irony is that the development impact fees, which are traditionally charged per unit, were now being charged per square foot, and to the extent that Meritage was proposing buildings larger than 2,400 square feet, excuse me, they were paying higher impact fees. They didn't like that, but it surely says that. The ambiguity is the following. The 2,400 square feet is in the agreement, but it applies to what? It's not clear whether it applies to the total floor plan, including patios and garages, or whether it includes only what is called in the building code conditioned space, the living spaces. The city had interpreted the agreement so as to have these fees vary from the size of the total floor plan, including patios and garages. That is ambiguous in the agreement. That was the way the city interpreted it. With each payment of fees, Meritage paid under protest. So they established their legal right to seek recourse against the city if they had to go to court to enforce what their interpretation of the law was. For some of those permits, the statute of limitations is run. But each time they pick up a permit, they pay under protest, and a new statute of limitations runs. There's a different different problem with the development agreement is implementation, which I describe as inconsistency. I think it's clearly inconsistent with the development agreement that the city started to charge fees that were not covered by the development agreement. We charged planning and engineering plan check fees, which are typical for a normal development, but were specifically not included in this development agreement. So it was inappropriate for us to charge them. To settle all these disputes, I reached an agreement with Meritage, which I'm recommending to you tonight, to eliminate the inconsistency, to resolve the ambiguity by clearly defining under what conditions the building permit fees will vary, and to lock in the development impact fees on a per unit basis, but at current rates, not the rates that were established at the time of the original development agreement. And as you know, well, you may know, just a few days from now on July 1st, those so-called current development impact rates will change again. They'll go up by almost 3% based on the change in the consumer cost index. So what I'm proposing tonight is a resolution to the dispute. There was one other factor which I'll mention in a second. And under our municipal code, a development agreement is to be noticed in a similar manner as any other zoning change. And that means that you would call a public hearing for the next meeting in July, at which you would actually consider the development agreement. So the question tonight is whether or not you wish to pursue this proposed amendment to the development agreement and call for the public hearing. The final matter I neglected to mention, and Ms. Edge raised it earlier, in exchange for these additional benefits to Meritage and the clarification, we're proposing that Meritage pay a one-time cash payment of $25,000, which would be used to make certain improvements to the sewer lift station that were not included, but should have been, but were not included in the public improvement plans. These kinds of improvements include safety improvements for access by our staff. The sewer lift station is a very deep wet well. Access to the site and some electrical work. That has been identified as a $25,000 item. it's included in the budget that you just approved. If you approve this agreement, we can take it out of the budget, and Meritage will pay for it. So that concludes my staff report.
Okay, so the action is to set up a public hearing. Am I right?
I think we need public
Public
comment.
amendment?
Do we need public comment on this?
You need public comment on the question, should we set a public hearing?
All right, we'll have public comment open and shall we set up a public hearing on July 18th. Come on up, Zach.
No, you have to identify yourself with it. Okay. Once again, sorry, broken record. Jackie Morris Lopez, 46 Mission Street. Yes, please propose a public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public hearing is closed. All right, then we propose to set up a public hearing for July 16th to review the proposed amendments and the development agreement with Meritage. So do I hear a motion for the meeting, public hearing?
I'll make a motion that we have a public meeting to meet with Meritage.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We'll set up a meeting for a public hearing for July 16th. Next and final issue here. Approved text for plaque for Sesquicentennial. We have a report from the Historical Society and Sesquicentennial Committee.
Good evening. I'm Vanda Guibert, President of the Historical Society. Thank you, Mayor Flores and City Council. I was hoping that you would read it, Mayor Flores, with your wonderful voice. We were approached by John Roble from the Eclampus Vedas organization who does historic plaques throughout the state, and he offered the city the opportunity to have a plaque and a monument. And so we, the Historical Society, agreed that we would do the language, and we have spent a lot of time drafting the language. You've probably seen more iterations than you'd like to see. There's so much to say, and yet on a plaque you have a limited amount of space. And we did our best, and then we circulated it to the Clampers, and they're a very large organization, and one of their members who was their historian provided some more wordage, and then we took that and whittled it down some more. So hopefully what you see in front of you, did Trish give you all a copy of the latest? Okay.
Yeah.
You want me to read it? Okay, if you see places where we can cut, just for the benefit of the public, the United States Postal Service opened a post office in town on July 28, 1851, calling it San Juan. The town was officially incorporated by the Monterey County Board of Supervisors on September 6, 1869, with the title of the inhabitants of the town of San Juan. At the Bolsa de Oro Saloon, trustees ordered that monthly meetings be held in the Masonic Building. In October 1869, their first meeting convened in the Texas Lodge number 46, F and AM on 2nd Street. The Postal Service continued to use the name San Juan until November 16, 1905, when it changed the name of the post office to San Juan Bautista. Volunteerism has defined this community. The Volunteer Fire Department and City Hall have been closely linked from the beginning. In 1868, the Eagle Hook and Ladder Company was established. In 1871, town trustees built a truck house, a fire truck house, adding a city council meeting room in 1893. That fire truck house / city hall moved to this site, being where the old fire department was on Polk Street. That's my place, where it remained until 1946. In 1946, Mr. and Mrs. Arthur Nyland donated funds for a civic center to honor their son Robert, killed during World War II. They first donated a large plot of land to the fire department, who then gave half to the city. On September 22nd, 1957, the current City Hall, located around the corner on 2nd Street, was dedicated. Descendants of the town's earliest settlers and many original historic buildings contribute to San Juan Bautista's continuous sense of community. The Clampers didn't really give us a word limit, although the first draft that we sent them, they said, this is pretty wordy, so we were able to cut it down a lot. If you see areas you think we could cut further, let me know. Otherwise, we seek your approval tonight because the clampers want to get going on this. They have, some time constraints to get it done, to get it shipped and properly.
I have a question for the attorney. I am a clamper, but not the part of this council. I belong to San Francisco. So, is there a conflict?
In this context, I don't believe that would be a conflict.
Okay, thank you. Do you propose to put all that on a plaque?
Yes.
That's my question.
Yes, we do.
You're gonna have a big.
But, yeah, maybe John, would you like to speak to this? Do you want to give us a word limit, a further word limit?
We have a pretty good plaque company that's been making our plaques for a long time, and we will submit.
Step up and talk at the podium, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't really prepared to speak. However, we have a pretty good plaque company, Franklin Plaques. I believe they're on the East Coast, and they do a pretty good job of creating what we ask. And we have a fairly deep budget for this project, and so we're pretty confident that we can have all those words squeezed onto a very attractive brass plaque that we can place here for the 150th sesquicentennial celebration. Thank you.
Thank
If
you.
he's confident, then I think we should
I
just
think so, too.
go ahead with
Yeah,
it.
I agree.
Okay. Any more public comments? Okay, we'll go to public.
It's going to be placed, that was part of your packet. I had drafted some language. The planning commission approved the placement to be in front of the old fire station, which was the original city hall fire station. And is it going to be a tall monument or a short?
Well, there's still room for some discussion on how we're going to do that. And we'll have to figure out from the plaque company how big it has to be. We'll get back with you on that.
Okay. And the plaque dedication will be on September 7th. And we're thinking it's going to be at noon, right? After the parade?
No, you said it's noon before the parade, but,
Well,
I'm sorry.
Okay, the possible action we have listed here is a motion to approve the text for the plaque to be installed at the fire department honoring San Juan Bautista's 150th anniversary. Is that correct?
Are there two alternate versions of the text?
Pardon?
Are there two?
They submitted a final version.
Oh, there is a final
Those are the
version.
final.
Okay, so that's before you.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the text for the plaque.
I'll move it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, call for the question. All in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carried. Go Clampers. What say the brethren?
Satisfactory.
And so recorded. Comments? Do you have any comments, City Council? I would like to thank everybody for showing up at our meeting. It's really, to me, when you come and get involved in what we're doing, it's all part of the village. And sometimes we sit up here with no one in the audience, so. At some of the meetings that I have at the county level, same way, there'll be no one there. So I'm glad you're here, and we're open to hear what you have to say. This is our town, and we need to keep it that way. So thank you.
So one last thing, I would like to see if we can put on for the next month's agenda, my suggestion of last month, or about the Airbnb tax to get some more money.
Yeah. Go for it, Ron. City manager. Pardon?
Nothing.
I heard something.
Okay.
Anyway, city manager?
Just cheers.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to serve you on a second occasion. I've enjoyed my service, and I will be here for another 2 weeks. Don will be starting on July the 2nd. He and I have already met for a few hours today. We'll be meeting later this week, so I pledge to him my assistance in the transition. I'll always be available to him and you if you need any help. This is a job with plenty of complexity and not as much staff support as he or I have been accustomed to in other communities. So it's not for the faint of heart. And as you described, Don has got the courage and energy and commitment, so I'm confident that he will serve the community well. Thank you for the chance.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ed.
City Attorney, do you have any comments?
Just briefly, I just wanted to say the City Attorney, Deb Mall, sends her regards. She's traveling right now, so she'll be returning here the first part of July. I expect she'll be back in the office around July 8th, refreshed and ready to go. I just wanted to clarify as far as the letter that our office will be drafting for the council's review. That's for the Board of Supervisors meeting to be held on July 23rd. And do you want us to then bring the draft back to you at your meeting on July 16th?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that. We'll work with the current city manager, the new city manager, and do you want to delegate anyone on the council to work with us in the review of that letter?
And you guys want to volunteer?
Maybe rent the whole entire
Mary?
I will.
Okay, Mary, great. That'll be great. It's always good to have somebody to work with on it. Great, thank you. I appreciate your hospitality, and it's nice to be here in San Juan. Once again, it's been a while since I've attended a meeting.
Look,
Thank you.
All
I
right.
printed it out.
Is there no more business?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, let's see.
Was that
Do we have
yours
a
or mine?
second to adjourn?
Second.
Any discussion, all in favor, respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. This meeting is now adjourned.
Great.
Yay.
Let's get the mayor to sign.
Okay, take
Here's
care.
the two, Don signed them. So,
I was
yeah,
going to call you,
they're
but I
all-
don't have your phone number anymore.